for us the week of January 20th through the 26th. And we're going to start right away with the mug that was in my thumbnail and talking about it in the title. And I want to know from you guys, how do you guys feel if you list something with not a lot of comps and it sells right away? I know a lot of people have different opinions on this, and I will admit this made me pause for a second. And let me explain the background. It was a day where I was feeling a little overwhelmed, and I was feeling like I needed to get a bunch of stuff listed. My eBay room is a little bit messy, and we're going to be doing a little bit of a rearranging of the furniture and things like that. And I just know I have to move a bunch of stuff out of here in order to do that. So one day I was down here and I was just grabbing things and listing them. And so I ended up finding, I opened a cabinet. I was looking for something. I opened a cabinet. I saw this mug, and it's like a shaving mug. It's vintage. You can see it's made in Vienna, Austria. And it's hand painted, and we've sold these shaving mugs recently. So I kind of was like, you know what? I've got this in my head. I can just kind of copy one of our other listings that we've just done. And I really feel like I was distracted and I wasn't giving it the full attention. It's just something that's been sitting here, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that mug. So as you can see, it's hand painted. It's Mount Hood. Portland, Oregon is what's painted on it. And the inside had this yellow, it's kind of hard to see, but it's this really yellowed discoloration inside. So when I was picking my price, I just picked $35.99. I think we sold a shaving mug like recently for $40. I just felt like it wasn't worth a bigger number because of the discoloration. But honestly, I did not take the time for the comps, like for any kind of like research. I just listed it, picked a price. It sold within like an hour. Okay, so that always kind of makes you pause and think, okay, did I leave money on the table? But in the long run, I am totally fine. It's been sitting here not making me any money for a couple years. And so now it made me money, right? So how do you guys feel about that? Do you go, oh no? And I was kind of afraid to do it, but just before this video, I did kind of look at a couple comps that I could find real quick on WorthPoint, just kind of like souvenir shaving mugs, that kind of thing. And I didn't see anything with like crazy high prices. So I do feel a little bit better. But, maybe I could have squeezed out a little bit of more money, but maybe it would have taken longer. And the goal is to move stuff out. We have to be sellers, not storage units and all that kind of wonderful thing. So anyway, this was my mug sale of this shaving mug for $34.99. Like I said, leave your comments below. What you would have done differently. How you feel about fast sales. Some people love fast sales. They're like, whatever, a collector is super happy that they got this shaving mug now. Okay, moving right along. The theme I feel of this week that we're talking about was a lot of lower price sales with a few highlights mixed in. It was just about moving items, some stuff that had been listed a really long time. So we're happy about that, but not a lot of huge dollar items. So we have this more of Mr. Pish Posh's hardware clean out. We have these 6 antiqued copper pull handles, very familiar looking. You see them in a lot of older kitchens, sold for $18.99. Now this was kind of funny. This is an Otagiri mug. We had it listed for $25, but it sold for $15. It was one of those misunderstandings where an offer came in for $15 and Mr. Pish Posh was in the other room, and I said like, oh, I feel like that mug should be worth more than $15. And he's like, yeah, but he thought I said, yeah, just take it. So anyway, he ended up taking the $15 offer again. We may have been able to squeeze another few dollars out of it, but on the other hand, I have had a little difficulty moving the Southwest cactus designs on Otagiri mugs. They have not moved the fastest for me. So anyway, another item gone. Then this necktie, I had been working on my backlog of neckties, still working on it, with my youngest son making drafts for me and measuring. And I had this Hawaiian necktie from like the 60s or 70s. It's a bark cloth type pattern. It's that textured material. And I had it listed before years ago in an Etsy shop or something like that. Anyway, we relisted it, sold it for $16.71. So another tie out the door. These were just in a baggie. I got at Goodwill of different pens and pencils. I saw these and a couple other interesting ones. And so these U.S. government mechanical pencils by Skillcraft sold for $20. Then this brand is Tommy Copper. We only knew about this brand or had come across it. I had found a shirt that was new with tags, and we sold that on Poshmark, and honestly not for much more than this one that was not new with tags. This one was an extra large. The new with tags was a large. It sold on Posh for like $25. This one we took an offer for $20. It had a camo pattern and stuff like that. But, we're trying to get away from like the lower priced sales. And so lower price clothing items. So I don't know that we would end up picking that up again. Now here's another funny story, a mystery. We still have not figured it out. So we had sold, we have a record that this blazer had sold on Depop. Maybe last summer or something like that. And the other day, Mr. Pishposh was down in one of our inventory closets, and he says, I thought we sold that blazer. It's still down in our closet. Well, in the meantime, I had gone through our Depop closet. I had emptied it out. I was like, I want to start fresh. I'm going to put some different stuff in our Depop closet. So I had deactivated items through Vendoo. And then I went over to Depop, and there was this jacket still there in our Depop shop, not connected to anything in Vendoo, but it was showing in Vendoo as having been sold. Now, the only correspondence we can find from Depop was the actual sale where they sent us the shipping label. There's no other email from Depop saying, hey, don't ship it, the buyer canceled, Like, I have no other memory of anything else going on. So I'm like, why did we not ship this jacket? And why is it still in our closet? It was like it was in our Depop shop because the order got canceled and Depop put the listing back for us. So that would make it not connected to Depop. But we can't find any record of any of that. So it was such a mystery that we just said, well, we better just relist it. So we relisted it, not into Depop. We never heard from the buyer. The buyer didn't say, hey, where's my jacket, And it sold on eBay in a couple days for $40. So I don't know. There's mysteries in reselling sometimes that you just can't explain. But I'm glad it sold. Another one of the tools Mr. Pishposh is cleaning out. This is a rasp. It ended up selling for $20. It's by Nicholson. And some more clean out stuff. This is a system or a driver, whatever you call it, for decking. And I think it was a system that he tried out. I'm trying to remember the story he told me. He tried it out. But was like, he's not going to be doing much decking, and he would do it a different way anyway. And so he's like, this is just sitting in my garage. So he sold that for $60. A barrette. We've had some videos about hair accessories. This just sold for $13.49, but I paid very little for it, probably like a quarter. It's by J. Crew, and it's just a brushed gold barrette. Very simple. And somebody wanted it, though, for $13.49. Easy peasy. And then more hardware. This brass screen door tubular bolt latch thumb knob. Deadbolt sold for $14.99. And remember the boxers. I shared these in a haul video, just kind of funny at the end, the vintage haul, that people are on the lookout for older underwear that's new in the package. These were sealed. The date on them was 1994, and we sold them for $44.99. That makes me happy. Okay. Then some more stuff we're cleaning out of the garage. I don't know if these got picked up. Mr. Pishposh found them one time, I think thrifting. I don't know if we were going to set it up for the boys or when they were younger or what in the world was going on with that. But we took he priced it kind of high and then took a $40.99 offer on those. Another small sale, just moving things out. These were as is. I guess there was something going on. A chunk of leather was missing. They're LL Bean boots, but he just took the $18 offer because we just want things to go away. We got good feedback on it. These 3 Eastlake style mortise locks sold for $50. We did have to partially refund because one of them did arrive broken. So we're learning with the cold weather, to be careful with metal and with glass, and maybe give them some extra protection. Things are shipping through freezing temperatures, and metal especially. It's another little tip, that metal can look like nothing would break it, but it can be more brittle than you expect. So the buyer was happy with a partial refund. Sold this kind of random Montana hat that sold for $16. Again, just trying to move some hats out. A couple utensils from a travel bar. It's a bottle opener and a corkscrew set with that fake horn type handles. And they sold for $18.99. This hat we've had for so long. I remember, I think I picked it up at the bins. I just thought it was kind of cool. Took forever to sell, $18.99, and it ended up selling internationally. And then this was a good sale. I think this pen might have come out of a bag of pens that Mr. Pishposh got on our road trip. It's a Parker 51. It was gold filled, but there are a lot of pen collectors. Parker is a good brand to look for. $71.99 is what this pen ended up selling for. So as you can see, we had, like I said, a lot of just low value, like things moving through, and then a good sale sprinkled in here and there. And then we did get this on the road trip, if you guys remember. Mr. Pishposh found this, if you've watched me for that long, but it was like back in the fall. Anyway, it was this embellished Western shirt. The brand was Ta-da! And it was a women's medium. It was embellished like with these cowboy boot design, painted, but with conchos added and things like that. And that sold for the full $39.99 asking price. Here's some more hardware type stuff that Mr. Pishposh from a previous job had gotten some leftovers or things they weren't using anymore. And in true reseller fashion, he salvaged them, and we sold a few way kind of further back, and then he realized he didn't have them listed currently, I guess. I think this is the one he was talking about. And those sold for $18.99. It's called a flap stay for tilt out closet laundry hampers, plus instructions on how to install it. A pair of outdoor research men's pants we have as is, because there was a few small dark spots on the back side of one of the pant legs. These sold for $38.99. Now my barefoot dreams finally sold. I think I had it priced way too high. It was new with tags, originally $165. I ended up selling it for $50. as you can see, it was originally sold at Nordstrom. Barefoot Dreams used to be one of those brands that all the resellers were talking about. And I never found one then, but I have found a few since then. They are super soft. And like I said, this was new with tags. So I had started off a little high, but then I just slowly came down and moved it for $50. More tools. This was, I think, January was a stretch of time. We were not listing a lot of clothing or anything like that. This was when Mr. Pish Posh was going heavy on his garage clean out. So that's why you see a lot of these tools and hardware type pieces moving. This sold for $30. It's a Craftsman miter gauge tool. I swear he has a bazillion of these because I feel like these sell like every other day. Okay. Oh, I don't have it on the right picture. So Countess Mara is a tie brand that you'll come across if you look at ties fairly often. I don't generally pick them up. A lot of times they're just like from the 50s, 60s, 70s. Like they're not super exciting. It's not a brand people are really like looking for. But I had picked this one up and it had been in my profit pile for way too long. But it was kind of a skinnier tie, so more like 50s into 60s. And I sold it for $26.88. And I had picked it up because it had this theme. It had this rock climbing, this mountaineering type theme to it. So something just a little bit more unusual than the regular standard Countess Mara necktie. And like I said, I took a $26.88 offer on that tie. And then more older listings moving. Patagonia. I have a feeling we've been, between Mr. Pish Posh and I, we end up ending in relisting items, and then they move. So that's kind of a little tip. Keep your listings fresh. If something's a few months old, we try to end it, relist it. We don't have a very organized system for doing it, but if we have time and we look and we see some things are expiring soon that have been listed too long, then we try to freshen them up, and it happens very often that they sell quickly after that. So $25 for this Patagonia Capilene kind of base layer type shirt. I picked it up at a yard sale last summer. And then more clothing that I don't remember picking up, but was out in my garage that Mr. Pish Posh decided to attack one day. Nothing high value. This was just an Ariat shirt, women's 2XL with polka dots, but it had the pearl snaps and some embroidery and things like that. So that sold for $20. Then we have a few of these with different names of like places on a ship. So we have like galley. This was tap room. So this went overseas. It sold for $20. The buyer did not want to pay, because I used the eBay international shipping, and they said the shipping was super expensive, which I believe because it does all the customs and everything up front, and besides whatever other charges. But it's simpler for me, and it's just a system that I kind of like. Anyway, they had some relatives who live in the States, and so they just picked one of their addresses, changed the address in the transaction to, a local, I don't know, Florida, someplace like that. And we just shipped it there. And so that's all done. Here's another miter gauge. This is a Bosch. I think this is still part of that table saw that he's parting out. So that sold for $49.99. By the time he's done parting out this table saw, we'll come up with a total of all of the different pieces that he has sold off of it and how much he made off of parting it out. Another mortise lock. This one sold for $30. Yep, more hardware that he's saved up. Mr. Door, he loves replacing doors and working on doors and things like that. So we do have a lot of door hardware. A Cutco knife. I just ran into a thrift store a few weeks back, and there was this and a spreader knife kind of taped together that I picked up. So we separated them, and this carving knife sold for $29.99. And then the last one on eBay for that week was a beanie ruche, and it sold for $18.99, and it was going internationally somewhere. So over on Posh, sales were picking up a little bit over on Posh compared to the last month or so. Another beanie sold for $16. I don't know why that's like that, but anyway, okay. So this was a bundle of flatware that sold on Poshmark. They gave me an offer of $79 for the rest of this Avalon Barcelona flatware. I can go a little bit bigger. The brand was Gourmet Settings, which is just something that, sells at, I don't know, different places like Target or JCPenney or TJ Maxx, Marshalls, places like that. Anyway, but it's very ornate, very fancy kind of looking. And so, like I said, I got the $79 offer for all those pieces, and I happily took that. Then we had these, they're just resin, like hooks by Collections, etc. We got these from somebody who was moving, and we listed them separately. Mr. Pish Posh decided to list them separately, so one of them sold on Poshmark for $17. And a pair of suspenders, work suspenders, leather by Nakona, sold for $35. And then here's those DVDs in that video. If you remember, I talked about listing DVDs, exercise, diet equipment at the beginning of the year. And so this set of ballet DVDs I picked up at our little clearance store sold for $21. And a pair of cool pants that took a really long time to sell. But anyway, finally sold for $29 on Poshmark. Now, we didn't have any Depop sales. That was during that time I was like emptying it out and slowly filling it back up again. But I did have a Mercari sale. Now, we've had our love-hate relationship with Mercari. I don't plan on using it for a lot of things, but it is really good for health and beauty that is open. Because a lot of that you cannot list on eBay anymore. Some people will say you can list certain things like in the partial perfumes in the collectibles section, but eBay started cracking down on that a few months back, and a lot of people had lots of listings removed and things like that. So it's just safer to do it maybe on some other platforms, not Poshmark. They have priority mail shipping, and a lot of the perfumes and things like that needs to be shipped ground. And so Posh is not set up for that. So anyway, just a little tip. So I just threw a couple things over on Mercari, and this sold really quickly. Crabtree and Evelyn Summer Hill Hydrating Body Mist. I'd say it's about 80% full, and it sold for $40. Then over on Etsy, just a few sales in the kind of main vintage shop that Mr. Pish Posh mostly takes care of. A vintage beanie sold for $23.99. Now these this Ken Edwards pottery saucers, they kind of surprised me. I was disappointed when I first got to the thrift store and saw them on the shelf because there was no cups to go with it, and it was just this bundle of saucers, and I was like, eh. But then I looked them up, and the saucers alone were still selling, and so I said, okay, I'll pick them up then. And they sold on Etsy for $39.99. And look what sold. Yay. If you saw my vintage haul video, this was that kind of wall hanging. It's solid copper horsehead wall hanging. I think the buyer just had a couple questions about how it hung, could it stand by itself. It's kind of hard to see in the dark background, but it did just have a loop on the back that you can hang on the wall. So anyway, she came back and finished the purchase, and we sold it for $39.99. And then last in that shop was just a 5-piece bar set. I think this was actually we had picked it up in a box and it was incomplete. So it was a set that didn't have all the pieces. So we just took it out of the box and just sold the 5 pieces as is. I think it was supposed to have like 6 pieces. But anyway, someone bought those for $28. And then just a few patterns that week. This costume pattern sold for $20. This butterick pattern sold for $14 of these skirts with the bias seams. And this little like sweatpants, sweat jacket, hoodie type pattern sold for $14. Okay, so that's it for that week. Feel free to leave me a comment down below. Not only what we talked about at the beginning about how you feel about fast selling items, but also just how your sales are going, the things I usually ask for in these types of videos. Your best sale, your best, how things are going overall with reselling. Feel free to share all that in the comments below. And we will talk to you soon.